The craziest thing about being creative
is this isn't a video. I just printed it out.
Babe, you've hardly touched your gingerbread congressional district, so I made you a gingerbread cuneiform tablet complaining about the quality of copper to Kiana Sear. If you didn't know the lore, this clay tablet in the British Museum is considered the oldest customer complaint in history. It's written in Akkadian cuneiform and was sent to ancient Ur to complain about a delivery of substandard copper ingots. The person it was addressed to, Kiana Sear, was a merchant who routinely scammed all his customers, which we know from similar tablets also discovered in what used to be Kiana Sear's dwelling. This all took me a few hours to trace out. I was going off this more legible digitized version, which you're welcome to compare to mine to make sure I'm not just making this up. I did accidentally mess up lines 11 and 12, but overall, I'm very happy with the final product. Here it goes into the oven. This is looking good. Okay, here's the final product. From the top, it says, "Tell Iana Sear, Nani sends the following message. When you came, you said to me, I will give fine quality copper ingots. You left, but you did not do what you promised me. You put ingots which were not good before my messenger and said, if you want to take them, take them. If you do not want to take them, go away. What do you take me for that you treat me with such contempt?" And so it goes on. Tasty cuneiform.
It's just about replicating the photo. There's no voice in there.
Hyperrealism gets crapped on a lot for being lazy and like, what's the point in painting for 100 hours if it's gonna look exactly like the photo? I used to hate hyperrealism for this exact reason, and I think my perspective has changed a lot, so I want to share how I look at it. Let's say person A buys you a bouquet of flowers, but person B plants the garden from scratch, waters the flowers, picks them out, and then gives you a bouquet. The bouquet may look exactly the same, but it's that effort and dedication that makes that such a special gift. Friend A buys you a sweater, friend B makes you a sweater. You know what I mean? Because it's not just about the final piece, it's about the process. It's the same thing that you really see when people don't like conceptual modern art because it doesn't look pretty, but there's an important concept behind it. I think our hate for hyperrealism is kind of the same thing, where we hyperfixate so much on the final piece that we forget that process is such a fundamental part of art. We're taught to produce products through the most labor, time-efficient way. And I think art is the only thing where that requirement is not needed. When someone tells me they spent 150 hours on a painting, that is such a beautiful dedication of love and passion and effort. The process isn't just the behind of the scene in an art piece, it is the art piece. Now, obviously not all hyper-realistic art is good, but to say that hyperrealism is not able to elicit an emotion is to say that photography cannot elicit an emotion. And to say that you shouldn't do that because there was an easier way to do it, I don't think that that is a good way to look at art. Please let me know what you think.
We have actual descriptions of the world that have been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Indigenous Australian communities have been passing down knowledge about the land and its changes for generations. From changes in sea levels to now extinct animals, there are descriptions about many things. And we know this because scientific data aligns with many of their stories. For example, there's oral traditions that describe the now extinct Diprotodon, which the indigenous communities refer to as the Yamuti. Now, it's said to have gone extinct around 40,000 years ago. But it doesn't end there. There are also some descriptions of human subspecies. Indigenous communities towards the north of Australia, as well as in Southeast Asia, describe a small hobbit-like humanoid. We actually ended up finding their remains. These were the Homo floresiensis on the island of Flores in Indonesia, which likely went extinct 30 to 40,000 years ago.
This is the Endless Art Challenge. Get a big piece of paper and make a picture pretty small, and then add to that picture every day, or every few days, because you know life, until the whole paper is filled.
For those that are angry that thinner people are taking clothes from the plus size section and turning them into smaller sized clothing, I have a plan for revenge. People talk all the time in sewing about taking something in. Let's size something up. I went to the thrift store and I got 3 size small t-shirts. I went for like some old graphic tees of some football team that no one cares about, and a mix of colors that go together. So my plan is to take these shirts and make something that fits me, which is a size extra large. I oftentimes do this type of project if I find a shirt in a smaller size that I really like the print of and that I think I can turn into something better. I'm going to start by cutting the belly off, basically. I'm going to cut from side to side and get these long strips. You'll wind up with these two pieces that are all going to be roughly the same length because they're the same size shirt. I'm going to continue by cutting straight across one side of the shirt to create a long length of fabric. You're going to take these long strips and you're going to sew them together either with a serger or a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Also, some sewing machines have an overlocker stitch. You could try that. So essentially what you're left with is a big piece of fabric. And we're going to cut our pattern pieces for our shirt out of this. So essentially, I got a back panel out of that piece of fabric, and I'm going to join the leftovers together, the tops of the shirts and the leftover fabric, until I get enough for a front panel and sleeves. So essentially what you're going to do with the smaller pieces, cut straight lines across and join them as they allow, like as the sizes fit together, like a puzzle, join them together. The goal is a big enough piece of fabric to cut out your pattern pieces with. So this is what I wound up with. I have some scraps, but I think what I'm going to do is incorporate this thrifted fabric into this garment. When doing patchwork like this, it's good to have a coordinating fabric that's in excess so that you can kind of fill in the gaps. So this is how it turned out. I love it so much. I'll wear this like all the time. I think it just, yeah, it looks great. And that's how I make patchwork tops.
"40 of Wikipedia's most prolific editors have seceded and made their own wiki. And I'm among them. I'll tell you why. So let's back up a little bit. I'm part of the contingent of Wikipedia editors that specializes in road infrastructure. For example, everything from Interstate 80 and Route 66 all the way down to tiny little nothing highways on the side of the Jersey Shore. Now, we've been chugging along doing our own thing on the Pedia for the past, 2 decades now, but in the past couple of years, our little corner of the site has come under attack. And why, you may ask? 2 reasons: sourcing and notability. Now, the first of these issues comes down to one of the founding principles of Wikipedia. You can't have primary sources, only secondary sources. Now, this is all well and good if you have topics that people want to cross-reference each other with, but nobody's writing an article about friggin' Virginia Route 967. And so, according to our enemies, no newspaper sources. And also, you can't just not cite Department of Transportation sources. They decide the fucking routes. And then there's the trouble of no original research, which is all fine and good, except for if you're these people and you try to say, so according to this map, the old route of this route went from Augusta to... What the fuck was that for? It's original research. It didn't tell you in words that it was that way, did it? No, you had to figure it out for yourself by looking at the map. Therefore, it's original research. QED. You're a fucking asshole, you know that? How... Administrators, they called me a bad word, kicked them off the site. And then there's the people that try to get us on notability. Whoo boy, when I tell you that there is one person that is trying to destroy our entire site of Wikipedia just on the notability side, tagging articles left and right for notability. So here's a story that pretty well sums it up. So I see an argument with this guy and a couple of rogue geeks, and I do a response back, and then this guy has the audacity to say, "You haven't responded in a week. Were you sent after me to dogpile onto this conversation?" And I said, I wanted so badly to say back to him, "No, I just haven't been on the wiki because I have a life." Are you saying you don't? But also, hun, you're going after articles that have like a dozen sources cited in them and are like fully 10 paragraphs long. And you're not going after like the 2-sentence stubs? Kinda sus. And then you see full articles popping up about stuff like That 70s Show Controversy 2023. And they'll be gone in 2 weeks, and you're not tagging those instead? You want sources? Fuck it, we'll give you sources. Oh, you don't care about sources, do you? Okay, then allow me to quote from the ancient texts. Interstate, national, state, and provincial highways are generally notable. WPGO Road, you ever heard of it? The doctrine that you are fighting against was fought over and settled in the earliest councils of Wikipedia's existence, which you were not there for, and yet you have the gall to fight against them, to argue against them in the presence of the people who fucking wrote them? Wikipedia was founded on the premise that it will always be incomplete, and that more information is better. Who the fuck are you to challenge that? Trouble is, when all we want to do is just write our little articles, these people do nothing but try to advocate for their opinions. And thus we're losing. Entropy is inevitable after all. So, instead of fighting them, we have set up our own new wiki with blackjack and hookers. As long as it stands up to standard academic scrutiny, you can put whatever you want on there as long as it's related to US and Canadian roads. So in the increasingly likely case that all of those lovely road articles are purged from Wikipedia, you can find them at wiki.aaroads.com. But of course, this isn't just about us. It's a plague affecting all of Wikipedia. For more, visit part 2.
To drink, a little brown bat will fly very low above a body of water, and it'll open its mouth and take little teeny mouthfuls. But if it doesn't have time for that, sometimes it'll just dip its body into the water and later lick the water off of its tummy.
Who wants to play D&D?
People on death row actually play it a lot. Take a look at this campaign sheet from a Texas prison.
Aren't you Carrie Blakinger?
And I'm a reporter. Here's the story. In many states, prisoners on death row spend years living in isolation so extreme the United Nations calls it torture. Decades of research shows that long-term isolation can cause hallucinations and psychosis. And some men at the Pulaski unit in Texas told me they've gone weeks without being able to go outdoors or shower. Plus, the prison only allows them one 5-minute phone call every 90 days. I spent years exchanging letters with men on death row to report this story.
So people on death row in Texas being held in solitary need a mental escape?
So badly that they go to huge lengths to play D&D. Game manuals can get blocked by mailroom sensors. They make handmade spinners since dice can be contraband. And since they're in solitary, they play with secret communications like written messages passed between cells.
This is my favorite Easter egg by far, and I'm so excited to tell you about it. Okay. Did you know they gave us the entire plot of the film in the very first 4 seconds of the movie? Yeah, it already happened. Did you catch it? All right, stick with me here. Watch closely. I'll play it again. All right, here it comes right here. Boom. Do you see it? Y'all are not gonna believe this. This is insane. Okay. All right. The wallpaper that we see in this scene pops up a lot, okay? We see that they're birds, and they're kind of hard to make out until right here. Right when she's sewing the eye, we can see them very clearly, all right? And we see that they are 2 birds, and the pattern is repeating, but it's 2 birds, right? A big one and then a little one. The big one looks, dark on the top with speckles on its belly, with like a dark beak and like yellow eyes. And then the bird under it kind of looks like a light brown color where it's darker on the top and lighter on the bottom. And y'all, I was so stumped. I had no idea what this bird was till TikTok came to the rescue, and I came across this video.
This is a disaster.
Why?
Can you tell why?
No.
What seems out of the ordinary to you? Well, how about this egg? It's slightly bigger than the other 2.
Okay.
Which means some very bad things are about to happen.
Then he goes on to explain that the larger of the eggs, once hatched, starts to push its sibling out of the nest, so that it's the only one left, and very quickly becomes twice the size of its mother, right? Looks nothing like its mom, but its mom is none the wiser, right? It's still feeding the chick. Now, this bird happens to look a lot like the little bird that's in our wallpaper, doesn't it? It's got a dark top with a light-colored underbelly. Here we have a dark top and a light-colored underbelly, and it's much smaller, right? Now, he found out that that is actually a reed warbler. All right, so we've got a reed warbler. What in the world is that bird? Funny enough, it looks kind of similar to the bird that's in our wallpaper, a dark top and a speckled underbelly. Okay. Before I tell you what this bird is, let's go ahead and get on the same page that this bird is in fact the bird that's in our wallpaper, right? Looks the exact same. Dark color gray top with a speckled underbelly. Dark gray top, speckled underbelly, yellow ring around the eyes, dark tip of the beak. That's our bird. Okay. That bird is a cuckoo bird. And if you know anything about cuckoo birds, you know why this is such a cool Easter egg to put in here. Cuckoo birds are famous for something that's called parasitic behavior, more specifically brood parasitism, where it pretends to be other birds to gain love. It's easily twice the size of some of the birds that it pretends to be, And these little birds are none the wiser. They're still feeding them because they have the ability to change what their eggs look like. So it tricks the mama bird from the very beginning into thinking that, no, that is indeed one of her eggs, even if it looks nothing like her. Now, cuckoos are also known to occasionally eat eggs and chicks, which here in Coraline is something that we very clearly know about. Pretending to look like other people so that she can eat little babies, yeah, that's her whole thing. It's also so cool because we get these hints at the very beginning of the movie. We got 3 little things with one that's larger. It's very similar to the eggs. Here we've got her filling this up from the mouth, very similar to how a bird is fed. Heck, during this part of the movie where we see the little ghost kids on the wall and their motifs, the frames are even in the shapes of eggs, okay? They're egg-shaped. Now listen to this.
When the reed warbler was away gathering food, a different bird snuck in to lay this egg and trick the warbler into taking care of it.
What happens in the movie when real mom runs out of food?
Won't be long.
She leaves and then other mother swoops in to pretend to be her, just like a cuckoo. It's amazing because if we're looking at this scene where she's making the doll like she's sending out her egg to someone else's nest, the very last thing that we see is the cuckoo bird with the warbler, along with what I might add is a white chrysanthemum. Yeah, that flower right up there, that's a chrysanthemum flower, and it's a white one, which is important to note because white chrysanthemums represent death. So those images being the last ones that we see before the movie even starts is amazing. They literally showed us what the movie is about before it even began. Goodness gravy.
What would happen if Pinocchio said, "My nose is about to grow right now"?
Hi there. This is simple. His nose would not grow. I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, if his nose doesn't grow, that means he was lying, which means his nose should grow. But the thing is, Pinocchio was not lying. He was just wrong. Pinocchio's nose grows whenever he tells a lie, not just whenever he says an incorrect statement. If you ask Pinocchio a question that he thinks he knows the answer to, but is incorrect, him giving you a wrong answer is not going to make his nose grow, because he thinks he's telling the truth. He just doesn't know that he's wrong. So if Pinocchio believes that his nose is truly about to grow, well, then he is not lying. He is telling the truth. He's just wrong. And being wrong does not make his nose get any longer. Now, I think understandably the confusion here comes about if we have a case where Pinocchio doesn't think his nose is going to grow, but says it anyways. And if we have a case where Pinocchio doesn't believe his nose is going to grow, but says it will anyways, well, then he is lying. And if he's lying, his nose will grow. And just because his nose grew, that doesn't change the fact that he was lying when he said it. So, in summary, if Pinocchio truly believes what he's saying, nothing will happen. If he doesn't believe what he's saying, his nose will grow.